Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is lecture number 5. The name of the paper is Criticism 1. The topic is Aristotle's reply to Plato's third objection, objection on poetry and poets. This lecture is specifically for the students of BS English 5th semester GTC Pubby and also for the students of those colleges which are affiliated with Abdul Wali Khan University. The third objection was Plato objected that art actually weakens one's personality because when actors act on the stage, they identify themselves with different people. As a result, their personality, their psychological and moral makeup is disturbed. And when this drama is watched by the audience, they also try to identify themselves with the characters, and as a result, their psychological and moral makeup is disturbed, and they psychologically become weak, they morally become weak because they lose their own identity. Aristotle's answer to this is that this is important sometimes to forget ourselves and to think about the other people and to identify ourselves with the others, to put ourselves in the shoes of the other people, because thinking about ourselves all the time will be a kind of selfishness, and we should not be selfish to think about our own problems only, to think about our own selves and forget about the needs of the other people. Literature actually makes us realize about the needs of the other people. There are different dramas in which different themes are taken, and we try to identify ourselves with them and come to know about the great problems of these um, dramatic personalities. For example, Antigone. Sometimes I'll narrate the story of Antigone to you, but this is a short lecture, so it will not be proper to deliver that story. So later on, the story will be repeated to you. Who was Antigone and what happened to her? When we see her fate and when we see what happened to her, we think then about ourselves that our own problems are very petty and small problems as compared to the problems faced by Antigone or to the problems faced by Achilles. They were great problems, and when we put ourselves in their shoes, we find out that they had passed through a lot of problems and that we are lucky and that we have not passed through such great problems. As a result, we sympathize with them. This sympathy comes when we identify ourselves with the other people. And in order to sympathize, this is more important that we identify ourselves with other people because it is only then that we will feel sympathy with them and we will be useful for them, and this will decrease our selfishness and our greed. Therefore, according to Plato, Aristotle, poetry has a morally purifying influence and not a corrupting influence. This much is enough, but if you want to say more, you can give the example of Buddha. Buddha tells us he was the founder of Buddhism, and he tells us that selfishness is the cause of all moral ailments. The cause of all moral ailments is talking about yourself, thinking about your desires, your emotions only, your ambitions. This word I makes you selfish, and He talked about the doctrine of no self, that there should be no self, and that we should think about the other people. We should identify ourselves with the other people, and this will make us less selfish. There is also a story about him that a woman came to Buddha, and this woman who had lost her only son, she told Buddha to bring him back to life because he was very dear to her and she wanted him back. Buddha said to her that, well, yes, he sympathizes with her and that he would bring him back to life, but on the condition that she goes to the homes of the other people and bring a few seeds from a house where no one has ever died. And as a result, this woman goes from house to house and she doesn't find any such house where there hasn't been any death before. And while doing this for a long time, she forgets her own grief and identifies herself with the other people who had lost many of the sons or many of the people. And she comes back to Buddha, but this time she doesn't demand that he should bring her son back to life, but she says that she wants to be shown the path to peace. So the whole logic behind the story is that we feel um, problems, that we face problems because we think only about ourselves. If we start thinking about the others, then our life will be happier as compared to the life we are spending now. So, this is the moral of the story. However, the objection Plato talked about was that identifying ourselves with the characters makes us weak. But Aristotle proves it that quite the opposite is true. इसको उर्दू में सुन लें, बल्कि ट्रांसलेट कर लेते हैं, खुद ब खुद आपको समझ आ जाएगी, आसान इंग्लिश में है. Plato's third objection was that art leads to weakening of personality. ये तीसरा ऑब्जेक्शन था प्लेटो का कि आर्ट, पोएट्री वगैरह ये आपकी पर्सनालिटी कमज़ोर करता है. He said that when you watch a play or read an epic, और उसने ये कहा कि जब आप ड्रामा देखते हैं, एपिक पढ़ते हैं, you identify yourself with the characters, तो आप किरदारों के साथ अपने आप को आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं. आप कहते हैं वो किरदार मैं हूँ. You think yourself to be that character. आप समझते हैं मैं ये किरदार हूँ. And pretending to be someone else. और आप ऐसे जाहिर करते हैं आप खुद नहीं है, कोई और है. Who are not you. Who you are not. और वो असल में आप है नहीं. You leads to the weakening of personality. तो आपकी पर्सनालिटी वीक हो जाएगी, विच इज़ हार्मफुल बोथ मॉरली एंड साइकोलॉजिकली. दोनों तरह से अखलाकी तौर, नफ्सियाती तौर आपको नुकसान पहुँचेगा. Aristotle's answer is, अरिस्टोटल का जवाब ये है that for the healthy development of man it is necessary to forget ourselves. अगर हम चाहते हैं healthy development हो इंसान की तो हमें अपने आप को भूलना चाहिए and identify ourselves with others. और अपने आप को दूसरों के साथ आइडेंटिफाई करना चाहिए. We are too self-centered and selfish. हम बड़े खुदगर्ज हैं and oblivious of the needs of others. और हम दूसरों की ज़रूरियात से बेखबर हैं. Art and literature makes us realize the needs of others. आर्ट और लिटरेचर की वजह से हमें दूसरों की नीड्स का पता चलता है. इन ग्रेट ड्रामाज लाइक इंटागनी, ये औरत का नाम भी है, बड़ी मुसीबतों से गुजरती है और मैं इसकी समरी बाद में बता दूंगा आपको. लेकिन यहाँ पॉइंट ये है कि इंटागनी की मुसीबतों को देखकर, उसकी किस्मत को देखकर हम अपनी मुसीबतें भूल जाते हैं. We read in the fate of Antagony, the doubtful fate of mankind. हमें इंसान के मशकूक फेट का, किस्मत का पता चलता है. Similarly, in epic, we read of the fate of a man like Achilles. हम Achilles की तरह के आदमी की किस्मत को देखते हैं. When the audience identify themselves with these characters, जब ऑडियंस अपने आप को इन किरदार के साथ आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं, they cease to think of their own petty desires, तो वो अपने मामूली डिज़ायर्स के बारे में भूल जाते हैं, वरीज के बारे में। दे स्टार्ट सिंपथाइजिंग विद मैनकाइंड, वो इंसानों से हमदर्दी शुरू करते हैं, एंड इट्स प्रॉब्लम्स, और उनके मसाइल समझना शुरू करते हैं। दिस शुड लीड टू द लेसनिंग ऑफ ग्रीड एंड सेल्फिशनेस, इससे लालच सेल्फिशनेस कम होती है। therefore poetry has morally purifying influence and not opposite of it, तो लिहाजा पोइट्री एक प्यूरिफाइंग एक्सपीरियंस रखता है, इसका अपोजिट नहीं रखता। बुद्ध की स्टोरी आपको बता चुका हूँ। औरत आती है और औरत उसको कहती है कि मेरा बेटा मार गया है, इसको वापस जिंदा करो। बुद्धा को बड़ी हमदर्दी है उसके साथ। उसको कहती है आप जाएं और किसी ऐसे घर से चंद बीज के दाने ले आए जहाँ कोई फौत नहीं हुआ हो, तो मैं आपके बेटे को जिंदा कर दूंगा। वो जाती है घर से घर, बहुत अरसे के लिए उसको मालूम होता है कि ऐसा तो मुमकिन ही नहीं है कि कोई मरे नहीं, और लोगों के दुख दर्द मुझसे ज़्यादा हैं। तो वो वापस आती है और बुद्धा को कहती है कि मुझे पीस और अमन और आज़ादी का रास्ता दिखाएं। साबित ये हुआ कि हम जब दूसरों के साथ अपने आप को आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं तो हम अपने गम भूल जाते हैं। So this was Aristotle's reply that identifying ourselves with others is actually sympathizing with them. Having sympathy with the other people does not have a bad effect on your personality. It makes your personality stronger rather than weak. So therefore, a very good reply is given by Aristotle. Thank you and good luck.